Do not become exactly what you fear. The thing is, when it comes to the things that we fear, when it comes to the things that we so desperately want to avoid, there are so many times where we accidentally push ourselves even closer to that, and at times even become exactly what we never wanted it to become. The way that this happens is actually very easy, but it's also very sneaky, I would say, when it comes to the emotional part, because when you have fear, it can often dominate everything that you look at. It dominates everything in your world. And what it does is it starts to take hold and starts to take captive of your dreams and your behaviors. So instead of you driving the car, instead of you being in the driver's seat, instead, your fear slowly starts to take control. And oftentimes, I wouldn't say that it is a direct, crazy, one-time thing that happens, but it happens over time. For example, you could have this dream, right? You have this desire. You tell somebody about it, and then they make a negative comment towards you. And that one comment has now planted a seed in your mind. Now, if you are conscious of this, it can be easier to reject it, but if you're not, sometimes that can make it a lot more difficult. And so if the seed is planted in your mind, you start to have this doubt, you start to have this fear, and it starts to grow more and more and more over time. Not necessarily completely taking over the very first time that seed is planted, but if you give it a couple weeks, a couple months, now you are consumed by the feeling of fear. Your focus has shifted from the positive of all the beautiful things that could happen in your life and happen for you to now you are focused on all of the negative things. You're focused on the what ifs. You're focused on all the things that could go wrong. When this shift has happened, when you feel like this, it has a really big impact. It changes your entire behavior, which is why I say that you literally could become your fear. Because when you are focused on the good things, I know it low-key sounds a bit tacky, but it is very true. And that when you are focused on the good things, when you're focused on everything that could happen for you, when you're focused on how doors could be opened for you, you start to see that. That's what you become more aware of. That's what you become more open to. That's what you start to engage with. And it's not always a conscious thing. You could see conversations that are taking place and you begin to shift into indulging more in those conversations, in those places, in those spaces. You start to make more wise decisions. Your decisions start to align more with what you want. And so thus you start to see more of that occurring in your life. But when you're focused on the fears, when you're focused on the negative, the opposite happens. You could be in conversation with somebody about whatever goal it is, and it's a good conversation, it's a helpful conversation. And what can happen is that you could literally end up sabotaging yourself. You could have all this anxiety, all this doubt, all this fear, and even a reminder of the negative things that you have heard while you're having this conversation. And so instead of focusing on, ooh, this could be an opportunity for me, something could happen with this, instead, you could end up focusing on all of the fears, all the negativity, all the, well, this may not happen or that may not work out. And then that conversation may not lead you to where it could have. And that goes for anything. If you are wanting to get your degree, instead of focusing on finishing, you're focused on failing. And so you can be more likely to fail your class, flunk your classes, instead of showing up and showing out. A healthy amount of fear, a healthy amount of stress can push you in the right direction. But when fear starts to overtake you, it becomes a feeling that you want to avoid. So if doing the work, if studying, if working on your business, if doing whatever it is that you need to do, if having those conversations, if all of those things bring about that feeling of fear, then you can end up literally shying away from it, avoiding it, making excuses not to do it. And before you know it, you're simply not doing anything that you should be doing, at least majority of what you should be doing, in order to actually accomplish the things that you want to accomplish, because that negative feeling has now been attached to the necessary work that needs to be done. This isn't always something that is a conscious behavior. It's not always something that you may even notice yourself doing. So it's important to be aware of how this can happen. It's important to be aware of negative emotions that could be keeping you in constraints. And so there's a couple things that I want you to think about when it comes to yourself. I kind of mentioned some of them already, but to kind of analyze your life, analyze your behavior, analyze your actions so that you can think about if this struggle with fear is something that you actually have. So when you are thinking about the things that you want to do you end up having anxiety? When you have a business that you're working on or you're getting ready to start, your degree that you're currently in or you are about to do, if it's, a project that is due, when you think about it, do you just get a strong wave of anxiousness? And I'm not talking about the anxiousness and stress of a timeline, of a due date. I'm talking about the type of anxiousness and fear where it can borderline be debilitating, the type where it's overwhelming, where no other emotions, or at least for the most part, no other positive emotions can push through that barrier, because there is a healthy amount of stress, a healthy amount of anxiety that allows you to get stuff done. But when it's so strong where now it's the opposite, that is a pretty good sign that something could be wrong when it comes to your focus, when it comes to your emotions, and it's something that you should probably give a little bit more attention to. When you are also thinking about it, do you feel dread? I know this is something that I have personally felt, where I have been so fearful of something that I quite literally will start feeling dreadful about it. I will start having deep feelings of exactly that, just dread. Next is, do you talk down to yourself about whatever it is? Talking down to yourself can be a symptom of fear, because you fear that you're not going to be able to do it. Not everyone does this, but some people do this, where they will align with whatever negative there is so that they don't end up being disappointed. I know I do this for myself. I don't know if you do, but I definitely have had a history of doing this, where instead of having high expectations, instead of setting the goals for myself, instead of looking at it as anything as possible, I will literally, in the past, I've talked down to myself so bad, because instead of wanting to be disappointed, I would rather discourage myself first. And that literally leaves no room for you to be able to truly grow the way that you need to. And the next thing is that you think more about what could go wrong than you think about what could go right. Where your attention flows, I think there's something about that. Where your attention flows, your focus goes. I don't know, however it goes. But where you give your attention to can be a pretty good indicator of what you have going on the inside. There can be a lot of outward symptoms to what you're feeling on the inside. So pay attention to what you feel. If you feel anxious, if you feel dread, if you feel extreme worry, if you feel extremely stressed, if you feel like you're always talking down to yourself, if you feel like you're always thinking about everything that could go wrong, this can be an indicator of your fear taking over. And I would highly suggest to, go and dig deeper in yourself about it, read books about it, get therapy if you need to, just get that help that you need, because it's something that when you overcome it, there is such an amazing potential. There's so many amazing things that can happen for you in your life, but you may not even know that it's there. It's like a diamond that's covered in dirt. It just looks like a big ball of dirt. And once you start removing all of that gunk, all of that dirt, you get to that diamond. But the thing is, if you just look at it from the outside, you don't even know that there's a diamond in there. So now that you are aware that there is beauty in you, there is positivity in you, there is growth in you, there is success in you, there is opportunity in you, there are things that you can't even imagine that you will be able to accomplish. There are just certain things that you need to just clean off and get out the way of what your potential is, where you're going. And once you clean that off, there is a pure amazing diamond in there. Now that you know that, you can take those steps to get there. So please make sure that you pay attention to your emotions, pay attention to how you feel, because you do not want your fear to drive you. Once your fear starts driving you, it's really, really difficult to then accomplish what you want to have control over your life and not allow fear to control what you're doing. Allow fear to control your ambitions, control your accomplishments, and control where you're going. Think of yourself in your life as something that is extremely precious that you have to protect, because it is, and you do need to protect it. That is all that I have for today's video. If there's anything that you would like to get off your chest, anything that you would like to talk about, feel free to leave that down in the comments below, as I will be responding to you. Please make sure to take care of yourself. Subscribe if this video was helpful to you and you want to continue seeing more videos like this. I hope you have an amazing, wonderful, blessed day. Please make sure to take care of yourself spiritually, physically, mentally, and financially. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.